Trick 'r Treat is a 2007 film written and directed by Michael Dougherty in his directorial debut. He would later direct Krampus, another holiday horror film. It's an anthology, but structured differently than most, intercutting between the stories, which feature some overlapping characters and locations. They all occur on a particular Halloween night, and Sam, a goblin pumpkin creature, appears in all of them. He's the most recognizable thing to come from the film, appearing on merchandise and in comic books. A sequel's been planned for many years now, although as of 2023, it's said that a first draft of the script is finished, and may enter production soon. The film's cold open establishes the tone and setting. A young couple are returning home after a full night of Halloween fun. Emma puts out a candle of a pumpkin, and begins to pull the decorations down. This is all shot from a low-to-the-ground point of view, emulating the opening of the original Halloween. This act apparently upsets Sam, the character whose eyes we're watching through. He dashes like an enraged gremlin and leaps out at Emma. After a brief cut, Henry ends up finding his wife in separate halves, showing off some pretty decent gore effects. Over the credits are comic book panels providing hints about the future, as well as child's drawings and other illustrated bits that add to the overall theme. That's what the film is best at, establishing a mood and infusing every moment with it. The next segment is a wacky comedy about the exploits of a principal child murderer. After a local kid knocks down jack-o'-lanterns and steals candy, he is punished with an arsenic treat. Unlike most horror films, Trick 'r Treat is not afraid to kill kids. The tone of the segment is quite different from the others in the anthology, but it still feels in line with the inspirations for the film, Creepshow or Tales from the Crypt, which often had slapstick and absurd situations. While the principal is attempting to bury the body of the child, he is interrupted by both his child and his curmudgeonly neighbor. Eventually, after beating the child a few times with a shovel, he apparently succeeds. He's then able to spend some quality time with his kid, who after a bit of a fake-out, has been taught the family business of murder. The stories throughout the film are non-chronological, but their order is with purpose. Each of the stories is meant to depict a different stage of interacting with the holiday. The first one is child's introduction to it, with a focus on candy and carving a pumpkin. The next is early adolescence, focused on the telling of ghost stories, and tricks rather than treats. Next is adulthood, focusing on partying and sex. Finally, there is the old man, who has grown tired of Halloween. Sam's role in this short is more limited than the opening, simply coming to the door and getting candy. In other stories, he acts as an observer, or just passing through. So while he is the through line, he's not a main character in all of these. Incidentally, his name is derived from the Celtic festival of the dead, Samhain, which Halloween would take its inspiration from. The next segment, although this is where they begin to intercut more, is the Halloween School Bus Massacre. It features two actors who are also in Dead Like Me, which may or may not be a coincidence. It follows a group of teenagers who are taking jack-o'-lanterns to a nearby rock quarry to pay tribute to a Sins of the Past type deal, where a group of handicapped kids were effectively executed to make it easier for their parents. In the flashback scene, the kids are played by actual handicapped actors, who had fun, and the masks they used were inspired by ones that had previously worn. Also during this flashback, a car identical to the one from Christine can be seen. There are numerous references to other horror films, some are more subtle than others. This segment is a very classical horror comic structure, where the teens construct this fantasy about the murdered kids coming back, all to play a prank on one of their number. It's a Carrie situation, where they bring someone along only to humiliate them. Of course this goes wrong, as the kids do come back as swamp zombies and punish them for their indiscretions. These happen entirely off screen, although the sounds are enough to understand the grisly fate. Surprise Party is next, and features Lauren Lee Smith as its protagonist during the height of her career. That's another thing that differentiates this film from a lot of other horror anthologies. It used a lot of then popular actors. Her and a group of friends are dressed as princesses, or in her case Little Red Riding Hood, and they're on the prowl for boys, inviting them to a party in the woods. This also features a mini-story of a vampire, or at least that's how it appears. We see him prowl down on an unsuspecting victim in an alley, able to disguise her screams as part of the holiday. Eventually, however, he chooses the wrong victim, and it's revealed both that he's the principal from earlier, and that he's not an actual vampire, but Smith and her friends are supernatural as they transform into bestial forms. It's another well-trodden story, the innocent victims that become monsters, but it's fairly well done, and the transformation sequence is effective, with the girls ripping their skin off in a very sexually charged manner. The final segment is entitled Sam, and follows a heavily made-up Brian Cox, who is intended to look like John Carpenter. He delights in scaring off trick-or-treaters using his dog, but Unfortunately for him, that upsets Sam, who thinks that everyone deserves candy. The two struggle and, eventually Sam is shot and demasked, revealing his true form. But a little something like that isn't enough to keep him down, and the two continue their struggle. It's only after he's given candy that he relents, fulfilling the tradition. After the segment is over, it's revealed why this particular old man was targeted, as he was the driver from the earlier massacre, and eventually the ghost kids catch up to him, offering him a final trick. They can actually be seen at the very start of the film for a brief moment, although without context they seem like a regular bunch of trick-or-treaters. The film manages to use its nonlinear storytelling fairly effectively, with other nods to the continuity of the night, which helps it all feel cohesive. Trick or Treat is a modern Halloween classic that manages to make some well-trodden stories, but present them in an engaging and entertaining way, while showing off everything that makes the holiday interesting. It's held up by good writing and solid performances by all of its cast, and manages to avoid the pitfall that most anthologies have, with no bad story weighing the rest down. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know your opinions on the film or other anthologies, and as always, be well.